Hey everyone! The economy and commercial real estate have been going through a bit of a bumpy ride as we contend with still elevated inflation, rising interest rates, tightening monetary policy, and other headwinds. Many people believe that the variety and strength of the headwinds means we're in a recession. And although there are definitely some challenges, the consensus belief among economists is that we are not in a recession. In fact, more economists are embracing the idea of a soft landing, or at least pushing back the timeline of a prospective recession into late 2023 or 2024. The key driver mitigating recession risk is the strength of the employment market. So far this year, the U.S. has added nearly 1.6 million jobs, and the current unemployment rate is 3.7%. It's really hard to argue that the U.S. is in a recession when we're adding over 300,000 jobs per month. That doesn't mean a recession won't come. It is possible. But as a country, we're not there now. But that said, different parts of the country are experiencing very different realities when it comes to their local economic climate. This is really visible when you look at local employment numbers and local commercial real estate fundamentals. There's no specific mathematical calculation, at least I've never seen one that holds true across markets and across the country, but there is absolutely a link between job creation and commercial real estate space demand. So even though there are about 3.4 million more jobs in the US today than there were before the pandemic, 9 metropolitan areas still haven't fully recovered from an employment standpoint. At the other end of the spectrum, 14 major metropolitan areas now have at least 5% more jobs today than they did before the health crisis. The growth in some of the expanding cities has been pretty spectacular. Dallas-Fort Worth has about 383,000 more jobs today than it did before the pandemic. That's 9.9% growth. Austin's employment base has grown by 14.3% growth from where it was before the pandemic. Salt Lake City has grown by 9%, Jacksonville 8.9%, Tampa 8.7%, Nashville 8.6%, and Phoenix, Orlando, and San Antonio have all increased their job count by 6.8%. So a person living in one of the 9 cities where employment hasn't fully recovered yet probably has a very different perspective on the economy from someone living in a city where jobs are being created at an aggressive pace. Although the correlation between job creation and commercial real estate demand is imperfect, the 5 metros that created the most jobs also generated some of the strongest apartment housing and retail space demand. Metros with weaker job creation that are still enjoying positive commercial real estate demand growth are very large cities like New York, Washington, D.C., and Chicago, where the sheer mass of those cities has driven net positive household creation over the course of the last 3 years. Looking forward, we expect to see significant employment gains and therefore stronger than average commercial real estate demand in cities like Los Angeles, Dallas, Atlanta, Boston, and Phoenix. But that's only half the equation. Investors also need to consider new supply risk. Even though a city may add a lot of jobs and have a lot of commercial real estate demand, it can still have rising vacancy and weakening revenue growth if the new commercial real estate development pipeline is big enough. That's not really a problem for multi-tenant retail because retail construction has atrophied for more than 10 years, and I expect it to remain limited, at least over the short term. On the flip side, multifamily deliveries are expected to reach a record level this year, and that could pose a risk in several major U.S. markets. Cities like Nashville, Austin, Charlotte, Salt Lake City, and Phoenix are all expected to deliver more than 5% inventory growth in 2023. And that wave of new development could weigh on multifamily performance despite the strength of the local employment market. So while investors tend to favor metros with a strong employment outlook, that's only part of the picture. Investors need to dig under the surface and assess the demand drivers, the supply outlook, barriers to entry, the local commercial real estate momentum, down cycle risk, and numerous other factors. And even beyond that, investors should consider the local submarket, and the individual asset itself. There are a lot of ingredients to bake in, but I always start at the top with the macro drivers affecting the local market. Those can give you a lot of insights very quickly, but they don't tell you everything. And once you get a handle on the current perspective, you need to look forward. What's the outlook for tomorrow, and in a year, and 3 years, and 5 years in the future? As always, investors need to keep their eyes on the horizon.